Akira B. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Busy but awesome.
I feel it. Yeah, same here.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me on your day off to talk about the your story in Letter Be Evil, which is very exciting to be nominated now for an Ignatz Award.
It's my first Ignatz nomination. This is very fun for me.
Hey, me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
solidarity.
So we may as well like get the word out and tell people to go and vote and like take a look at some of the stories and hopefully people will like pick up the book too because I gotta say it's pretty great. Um,
Not
I
to be
don't
biased,
say that
but
about everything. So um, but like Cassandra Jones edited it. She kind of gave us the mandate to create stories that were where a female character can be evil just for evil's sake.
mhm,
Like, doesn't have to be scorn, doesn't have to be anything, just evil for evil's sake,
just
right?
have fun.
Yeah, like why not? And so your story in here is called Listen.
Mhm.
It's drawn by David Joyce and it's lettered by Jeff Eckleberry.
Yes, great team.
Um, I'll talk about the art in a second, but I want to talk about like the story first. So where did you come up with the idea for the story?
So for me, I personally love villains that are kind of right. Like you kind of have to agree with them on some level. Like
Sure.
Magneto, for example. The whole
Okay.
story told Magneto was right because I like the mental chess that comes with hearing a villain's monologue, and while you're trying to essentially side with the hero, you're listening to the villain and you're like, "Well, they're not technically wrong, they're just kinda doing it the wrong way,
Right.
maybe."
Right, right. Um, that's exactly kind of what I got out of this story. So
Mhm,
where well, let me before I get into the deeper into the story, let me talk about just like the art and the lettering actually for a second.
yes.
Um, the art in here by David Joyce is really, really great. It's got this like painterly quality to it.
Yes, very much so.
You can
I
always
saw it.
tell
It was
when
amazing.
the art when the illustrator is also handling the color because they can incorporate it into the illustration a bit more, you know.
Yeah.
And it's pretty dark, you know, the
Mhm,
the actual pages itself, all the pages are pretty dark, but it allows this thing for Jeff Eckleberry to do where he does the word balloons in white
mhm.
and the lettering in white and then doesn't do a background in the balloons at all. So the art is shown through, and I thought that was a super interesting choice.
Yeah.
Did you all
Um,
talk about that as a team?
that in particular, we did not. I did, um mentioned coloring in an aspect when we were going through the script itself. It was very clear that it was like the contrast of like light and dark. It was
Hmm.
the this is the villain's territory, so the hero themselves is kind of spotlit,
Yeah,
very obviously out of place because she's so like bright compared. But the lettering itself, that was more of a surprise to me, and I was like, "Oh, I love this. Actually, this is great." I don't know what you were planning, but now that I see it, this Jeff, or yeah, Jeff definitely knew what he was doing there.
yeah, I think it's a super cool choice, you know. And then you also have David like like connecting everything kind of with these webs, which
Mhm.
also works like really well. But then when because of the webs and everything, that they're some of the brightest things in the pages. You see them going through the balloons and everything. I just think it was a super interesting choice,
Yeah.
and it worked really well for this story. But so back to the story, we're kind of dropped into this world, like this fantasy world, basically, right?
Mhm.
Where you've got this evil, right, character who is, clearly has some like spidery abilities with all the webs and things around. Has the hero kind of tied up, uh, And what you find is that these hero characters keep coming after her.
Mhm.
And they can't really define why they're coming after her, just that she is evil and the king says that she's evil, so she must be taken out. And she sort of starts going through her monologue and is explaining that, listen, you don't even know why you're coming at me. You've just been told that I'm bad. And it sort of reminds me of like the Joseph Campbell thing where like the villain is the hero of their own story, right? In a way
Yes.
where
Yes,
like,
yes.
Darth Vader thinks he's doing the right thing, right? But when this character starts to sort of explain it, she's sort of like, "Listen, I want peace just as much as anybody else. I just want to be left alone, and you guys keep coming at me," you
Right.
know? And I thought it was like an interesting take on a character because you're really sort of feeling for her, and
Mhm.
you can tell that she's supposed to be the baddie, but she's making total sense. Like you said with Magneto, like, Magneto has a point here. This character
Yeah.
totally has a point, and that's really what got me through reading this thing. Not only that, but as the hero starts to come around and understand what they're saying, she lets her go.
Mhm.
Um, to show that like what if I get rid of all of the you know, people who are coming at me, there will be no good people left in the world, at the end of all of this, which was a really great point. Um, and you start to kind of wonder if it's like, what's that syndrome where like people who are kidnapped start to side with with the person who captured them? I can't remember what it's
Oh,
called.
yeah,
Uh,
shoot.
anyway,
No,
you start to
yeah,
feel
I know
that,
what you're
right?
talking
What is
Mhm.
it?
As I know what you're talking about, I don't know the name
Yeah.
of it.
Right, right. I'll look it up and pop it up on the screen or something. But anyway, you start to kind of get that, like, oh, okay, well, this person has me, captive, but no, they're making sense. And then, the story like continues on, and she says, you're better than other heroes, and you're more useful alive than dead. And something sort of clicks in her and says, useful? And that's where she said, "If I get rid of all of the actually good people in the world, there'd be no one here to enjoy the fruits of my labor." And she says, "I don't agree with your methods, but I'm willing to hear you out. How would you change the world?" And then you get this like wicked smile.
Mhm.
That is such a great exclamation point to the end of the story because there's so many stories that you read that spell everything out to the reader. And
Mhm.
really what you get from this story, I feel like, depends on who's reading it.
Yeah, that's always a fun thing for me where it's like the interpretation that the reader gets out of it. Because again, even though this villain is quote unquote correct and this like she has a point, it's still she is still shaped as the villain. Like so the ending is very like cliffhanger-esque and up to interpretation of, oh, somebody might think, you know what, maybe we should listen to her, maybe we should see what she's about, and then other people might be like, no, this is still a villain, I don't trust this.
Right. Yeah. And so like you could interpret it that her evil way is manipulation and turning
Yeah.
these good people to her side, quote unquote good people to her side, and amassing an army of people who've been flipped to her side. And then you got
Yeah.
to think like, is that what like Sauron did, or like other like fantastical bad people, or or people, bad factions of evil people in reality? Is that sort of how people ended up on that side? Is that somehow they were convinced, and and something clicked and made sense to them and totally flipped them around. You know, you can see how it could happen in this story, and I think it's pretty deep. It's pretty it's a good psychological case story, you know? And I
I think
think you
that's
did
what I
such an awesome job on it.
thank
Um,
you.
how did how did you work with the illustrator on like character design or anything? Did David come up with the character designs himself, or did you have ideas in your mind? You know, did you already say like this is set in a fantasy world, and this is what she looks like, or did they come up with it themselves?
So I give when I have other artists doing work for me, which is most of the time because I don't do art as much anymore.
Hmm.
um, I give a vague description, just enough to give the sort of direction and also the setting and sort of vibe. So it was definitely okay. I want a based on the names. Immediately doesn't remember. So Salem and uh, forgot her name. That's terrible. I wrote this story.
You're not the first one to say that.
Oh, great. Okay, cool. But essentially the paladin of the story is very
Uh-huh.
like sun motif compared to the Salem, the villain's spider motif. Where so my direction was specifically, I want them to be black because I am, and I like representation, and who doesn't?
Totally.
Um, yeah, and then I was like, okay, so I want them to be opposite of each other, both like in, of course, a hero and villain aspect, but also in like physically.
Hmm.
So Salem's obviously taller, although it's hard to tell when she's like the other one's sitting most of the
Yeah.
time. Yeah. But it's like the light and the dark, that kind of thing. So I don't really give specific ideas of how they should look. I mostly give the here is an idea, here is the vibe, have fun, go crazy because I wanted David to have that, you know, creative freedom to play around with it. And when he showed me designs, I was like, this is even better than I thought it would be. I'm glad I let you go crazy. Fun with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, yeah, I get that a lot from writers that when I'm working with them, that they just like their favorite part besides actually writing the story is like seeing the way that I interpret their writing, and
Yeah,
you know, in unexpected ways that, well,
yeah,
they usually say better is the story, you know, or that they weren't expecting in a good way. Whether
yeah.
they're being honest with me or not is another thing, but you know,
There's
um,
there's definitely like aspects that I definitely like that artists can think of that I personally don't. 'Cause as much as I give detailed information in the script itself and then like the idea of the art, there's just smaller nuances that like the artist can pick up. For
mhm.
example, Salem's in her pajamas, essentially.
It's
She's
just
got yeah,
noticing the fuzzy
yeah,
slippers.
she's got fuzzy slippers. That was not a thing that I had in mind, but David drew it, and I was like, "Oh, no, you're correct. This is necessary now."
Is it in more than one shot, or is it just that one shot?
Just
I
that
think it's
one
just that one
because
shot.
yeah, it's
That's
the
really funny.
it's the gag, or quote unquote gag, but also to Salem's point that all of these heroes are attacking her, and this one in particular attacked her in her own home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where she was just like living her best life, chilling, and then all of a sudden now her house is ruined or her home is ruined. But she's also in her pajamas. Like this was not a fighting day for her.
Oh my god, that's so funny. And you see her place is just like a disaster too. Like
Yeah, the visual.
wine bottles spilled, and there's like a broken mirror here. Yeah, it's definitely lived in, that's for
Yeah.
sure. You know, clean up your webs after you spin them. Jeez.
It's her aesthetic. It's for the decor.
I love
But yeah,
it.
and also there's also a part in the like first page, second page where she has like a spider like stuffed animal that's very cute.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, like it's not just her motif. It is like something she genuinely loves.
Yeah.
So, however she came about becoming a spider, it was probably Die Hard at birth.
Oh my god, that's great. Yeah, you could really just pour over and look at all the little tiny things in the background, and it helps develop the story even more and makes her more of a real character, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's like the fun thing about writing villains and heroes for that matter is just making them as realistic as possible. Just like
Yeah,
how they ended up getting to this point. Because not every villain starts as a villain.
right.
Some of them were heroes first, and then they
Sure.
got betrayed.
Yeah, exactly. They woke up either woke up to a realization that everything that everybody thought was good and status quo is actually not good for, many people,
Hmm.
or they just like a switch is flipped and they lose their minds.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. They wake up one day and it's like, actually, I'm choosing violence.
Yeah, that's right. And the story really stands out too amongst the others because most of them are, most of them are very like starkly bright, you
Yeah.
know, in their interpretation and coloring,
Hmm.
or minimalist like this and the last story, it's just black, white, and red, and then you
Yeah.
get to this one and it's much darker in the setting because it is taking place in a cave, and it does draw you in and make you want to look at it closer.
Yeah.
And I think even more now that you're seeing all these nooks and crannies and things that are going on in the background, like things happening in little spots, it even makes more sense to have the art not hindered by the balloons.
Yeah,
Um,
because I think this is, like, one of my first times actually seeing someone, not have backgrounds in balloons.
I don't
Not
think
saying
I've seen it before. Yeah.
yeah, I haven't seen it before myself, and I was like, "Oh, this is actually very intuitive." I'm noted for later.
I don't think that it would work on most stories because you would have like brighter scenes and darker scenes, and if the scene is
Yeah,
too bright, you're going to lose part of the
the
text.
words.
But
Yeah,
since this is colored so dark throughout the whole thing, it
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 really
it
works.
works. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, just fantastic, fantastic work.
shout out to my
Um, yeah, you did such a great job. Everybody did such a great job. You really laid out a great story. I can't wait to read more stuff from you.
thank you.
Um, what are you working on anything else right now?
So I run WildStar Press, an indie publisher. We just finished our own anthology. That cast was in, which is fun. It's a full
Awesome.
circle moment. Um, it's called Coil to Strike. It's a Western anthology about one particular cowboy, which it's my favorite because the story itself is about the myths and legends about one cowboy. So everybody has the
Oh,
yeah, everyone's story is about this one cowboy, Emery Graves, but they all get to make up what they're about, whether they're good, they're bad,
right.
in between, which it came out really fun. And it's out right now digitally as I'm currently preparing to ship out all of the physical ones. Uh,
Awesome.
yeah. So Wildstar Press, indie publishing. I have a few more books in the works right now that will be announced not this week, but early September. One of those days.
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
yeah. And then
Wildstar Press, do you have a website?
yeah, WildStar if you I've done well enough that if you type WildStar Press in Google, I should be the first one.
Boom. Okay. Well, I'll put a link in the show notes too, so
Yeah,
people can go and
but
check
yeah,
it out.
wildstarpress.com, and then everywhere on social media is WildStar Press. Um, and then me personally, I do a lot of freelance editing, uh, helping people get their stories pitch ready or even just ready to start and create.
Yeah.
I always advocate don't wait for perfection, just start now until
Mhm.
you can get to where you want to be, that kind of thing.
Love it. Where can people find you on the webs?
You can find me on my website, bluebat.biz, because the alliteration is fun. BLU. And then social media is Bluebat. It's BLUBAT, so blue without the E. And
Okay.
yeah,
Awesome. I'll put all the links in the show notes. And
great.
yeah, if you people watching don't have a copy of Letter Be Evil, it is up on the Zoop site right now. There are actually 3 different covers.
I have
Akira and I
one.
just happen to have the same one out right now, but here are the other 2 covers.
Very good
Super
covers.
awesome. And there's also going to be a link in the show notes to get your ballot for the awards. So for best anthology, go ahead and give us a little boost. Give us a little
Vote for
boost.
us so we
Yeah,
can
totally.
be Ignatz award winning and not just nominated.
I think I always say either Ignatz or Ingats, and I don't remember. I can't remember which one it's supposed to be.
Whichever one is closest in your heart, that's where I go.
Right.
I'll
Type it
wait till
wrong, it's still going to show up in a Google search. So
exactly, because 'cause they're prepared.
anyway, it's a very prestigious award, and we would love to have one collectively. So give us a hand, give us a hand, give us a little boost. Um, Akira, thank you so much for coming on. Can't wait to see what's next for you. Anytime you want to come back, please do,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, we'll talk to you later.
See you later.
Bye. Join my Patreon to see my work before anyone else, plus score physical sketchbooks, mini comics, and commissions delivered right to your door, and read my new books, Something Seems Off and Three-Headed Pigman, as they are made. Go to my website to order original art, commissions, and my books, Lost Angels, Spectral: A Showcase of Fear, Chaotic Neutral, and more. Gray Matter Drip, The Art of Chris Anderson, is available now from Cosmic Lion Productions. Here are the upcoming conventions I'll be at the time of this recording. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. It helps spread the word. Thanks.